So there's a woman who was accused of witchcraft in Ghana in a case that was so contentious that it divided the entire nation on religious and moral grounds. Now, this is because up until this particular incident, it was legal under the law for women who were accused of such practices to be taken through the horrific ordeal of being publicly whipped or being poisoned to get them to confess.
This case happened in the 1930s in the town of Winneba, which is in the central region. And it was one of the many cases where the traditional religion of the Gold Coast clashed with the imported religion of Christianity. Now let's call the woman who has been accused of witchcraft Monica. Monica was a recent convert to Christianity. Now, Monica was summoned by the Native Tribunal of Winneba to come and answer questions on people suspecting her to be a witch. Monica's case drew so much attention that they had to call for a powerful fetish priest from Suhum, which was some 102 kilometers away from Winneba, to come and test Monica for witchcraft. After hours of questioning, Monica kept denying that she was not a witch, and the fetish priest was left with only one solution. I find this last resort to be kind of fascinating. So let me take you through it. The priest was going to stab a fowl and then throw the fowl to the ground. If the fowl died with its breast facing up, Monica would be declared a witch. But if the fowl died with its breast facing downwards, Monica was telling the truth about having no idea of witchcraft practices. At this point, Monica knew the game was rigged. Once the priest determined that Monica was a witch, she was going to be taken through this gruesome process of being publicly flogged and then forced to drink bitter concoction and then flogged once again for the beye or the witchcraft in her to be cured. Monica had lost all hope up until this point, until her son stepped in and put up a defense for her. So Monica is kept in prison while the priest is off preparing her concoction. And her son steps in and says, as Monica does not practice this traditional religion, so they cannot force her to undergo a trial that is not part of her religion. He faces strong opposition from the people of the locality who want to literally burn the witch. So this stalemate attracts the attention of the Gold Coast Times, a newspaper that was in publication at that time. And the press, in an attempt to be fair at that time, in their publication said that if a hidden woman, when arrested, is beaten and taken through this trial, Monica can also not be exempt because then it creates a double standard about who goes through this process. But it gets interesting. If you love stories and you love reading something that is based on history, I will want to recommend this book, The Usurper Street. It's a historical fictional novel that tells the story of Osei-Tutu and Okomfo-Anokye, the founders of the Asante Empire, and how they went about creating this empire that was able to resist the colonial forces and spread its influence to almost all the continents that we have in the world today. There are stories about witches in here. There are stories about the gods of the Akan also featured in this book. If you want a copy, there's a number scrolling somewhere in the screen. If you're not in Ghana, you can log into Amazon.com and get a copy for yourself. So, of course, this becomes a huge issue, and the colonial government at that time steps in and demands that Monica should be set free. Our dear priest from the Suhum Shrine, who has lost his prisoner, goes to get a lawyer. The interesting part is this lawyer was J.B. Dankwa, who later became the founder of the UGCC, which was one of the parties that were pushing for Ghana's independence. Now, in court, J.B. Dankwa argued that the colonial government should reconsider this ban, and rather than making it an outright ban, they should consider making it a voluntary process. In this case, if you're accused of witchcraft, for your own peace of mind, you can voluntarily agree to go through the process so that your neighbors would not be treating you with suspicion. The idea of being considered a witch during this particular time was something to fear, especially for women. Now, a few years before Monica's case, a newborn mother was accused of witchcraft, and her case was actually what brought the colonial government's attention to witchcraft trials in the Gold Coast. This particular woman's case happened 4 years before Monica's trial. In her case, it was reported that the fetish priest danced in the rain and dragged the woman by her hair, kicked this newborn mother in her belly, and proceeded to strip her naked, all in an attempt to get her to confess to being a witch. Her torture lasted for 4 days. And in all that time, she kept denying being a witch. At a point, she had to give in because the torture was just too much. It was a prohibition of such acts by the colonial government that reduced the instances of such inhumane practices. If you've made it to the end of this video, I am hoping you will consider getting a copy of The Usurper's Dream. There's a number to call if you're in Ghana, but if you're not, you can get a copy on Amazon.